Hi, I'm Chris from CodeReviewVideos.com, and in this video we're continuing on with our tested implementation of wallpaper upload. Towards the end of the previous video we'd learned how if we use our own interface, not only do we make PHP spec happier, because we are now mocking what we own instead of trying to mock what we do not own, but also our implementation stays roughly the same, from the perspective of the wallpaper upload listener at least, and we no longer need to worry about specifics when coming into a test setup. However, we aren't done yet. There's still quite a lot of work to do. In fact, creating this upload process in a tested manner is probably more work, and it's certainly more code in terms of writing tests as well as code than just doing it without any tests at all. So we need to start thinking ahead to the next problem. And the problem that we've got is that when working with Symfony's file upload form, so inside our create wallpaper form, we have this upload field. And when we upload that file, it's going to be an instance of Symfony's uploaded file, which as we know doesn't conform to our file interface. So there's probably a bunch of solutions to this, one of which is to leverage the power of Symfony's form and use what's called a data transformer. And as the name implies, what we're going to do is transform from an uploaded file, which is to say Symfony's uploaded file class, to some class that we control that implements file interface. So for this, I'm going to create a new test. And I'm going to describe @bundle file Symfony uploaded file. And then we can run this new test and let PHP spec create the file for us. And so let's jump back into our project and get some of this stuff opened up. So now we've got the file. So just clicking in here, make sure that the new spec will open in the right pane. And then again, click into there, so into this pane. And then when I go into file, then it opens in the right pane. Now we've seen actually that working with Symfony's uploaded file is pretty difficult to test. So really the only thing that I'm interested in testing here is that this implements the expected interface, which in our case is just going to be file interface. So we can run this now. We should have a failing test because we don't implement the interface. And so we'll implement file interface. And then that's going to tell us that we need to implement these two methods. So command and N on a Mac, implement the methods. And then we're going to get existing file path, get new file path. But this brings up a new problem. And I've left this in honestly because this is the sort of thing that happens to me frequently. I could show you it where I've already been through this process and noticed what's about to happen and then reverted it and come up with some better method names. But that's really not what happens to me in the real world. So I've just left this in and this is a raw process in a way. So as soon as I've implemented this file interface, I've noticed that these two method names are a bit rubbish. Why on earth would a file of any description know its new file path? This makes no sense at all. And indeed, the existing file path, well, a file is only ever going to have one path. It's only going to live in one place. So really, it's not an existing file path at all. It's simply the file path. So let's rename that, get file path. But if we think about it further, SPL file info already has a method that does this, and it's called path name. So if there's already a generic way of doing this in PHP, let's try and stick with that. So we'll say get path name. Okay, we'll get rid of that for the moment, we'll get rid of that as well. And then as I've said, we're not going to know the new file path, but we will know the file name. And as we've seen, if we know the file name, if we look inside our actual implementation, then we are going to be able to figure out the new file location by using the file path helper. Okay, so let's add that knowledge into our interface also. So seeing as we've messed up our interface, it would make sense here to update the interface accordingly. So we've got get path name and get file name. And now at least we're satisfying the interface. So we should probably rerun our tests here just to make sure that we have a pass. And we have a pass because yes, we are an instance of Symfony uploaded file, and yes, we implement the interface. We're not actually testing what these methods do, so it doesn't really matter that they don't do anything at the moment. So in order for this Symfony uploaded file class to work as intended, we're going to need access to that uploaded file. We won't concern ourselves with how we get to that point at the moment. That will come very shortly. What we're going to do is we'll set up a private field on this class, which we'll call the uploaded file. And we'll just add in a hint here that says uploaded file as an instance of Symfony's uploaded file. And then command and N, generate some getters and setters for the uploaded file. And we should be good there. Now it would be a lot nicer here to be able to do this using a constructor, but the thing is we're going to need to use this class, the Symfony uploaded file, with Symfony's form component, and that does not play nicely with constructors. At least it doesn't to the best of my knowledge. So what we're going to need to do is have the getter and setter, which allows the form submission process to correctly set this uploaded file. And with that in place, once we've got access to that, we will actually be able to get the information that we need. So we're going to need to return this uploaded file, and then again get path name, which is one of the underlying methods on SPL file info, and get file name. Well, for this, we can rely on a method that's available on uploaded file, which is to get the client original name, which we saw in previous videos. Now, there's a slight downside to this, and that is that these two methods are relying on uploaded file actually being set, and if it's not set, then when we try and call get path name or get file name, then this is all going to blow up spectacularly. So it would make more sense to wrap these in a try catch, but for the sake of it, I'm not going to do so in this video. Okay, so let's bring up the menu again and jump into Easy Admin Bundle, and we can see that we have this property of file on our wallpaper, which expects to have its values set by a Symfony file type form field type. And as we've seen now, that means we're going to get this instance of Symfony's uploaded file. The thing is, we don't want an instance of Symfony's uploaded file anymore. We want to be working with our own Symfony uploaded file, which implements our known interface. Now, to do this, we're going to need to create our own form type, and then we're going to need to use that inside this Easy Admin Bundle configuration. So let's start by creating a new form type. Under App Bundle, I'm going to create a new file. Under the form type directory, I'm going to call this the uploaded file type. You can call it whatever you'd like. Let's tidy this up just a touch. Stretch that out, and it should be good to go. So our class here is uploaded file type. We're going to extend abstract type. This is just standard Symfony form stuff. There's a couple of methods that we're going to override here. We want to override build form and configure options. So start off with build form because that's the easier of the two. We'll say builder, add. I'm going to want to add in a field called file because that's the name of the property on this class in which we expect to store the outcome of this input. And then we're going to want to use that underlying file type from Symfony's selection of form field types. And we'll also say that multiple in this instance should be false. In other words, we're not allowing people to upload multiple files. The reason for not doing that is because it changes the underlying entity structure, and it just makes no sense in the context of what we're doing here. And for our options, we'll use the resolver to set some defaults, which in this case is going to be our data class. So the underlying thing that represents the data used in this form is going to be our Symfony uploaded file class. In other words, when this form is used, if everything goes to plan, if it's all valid, then the outcome will be a Symfony uploaded file. And actually, I've just noticed something here. This is not going to work if we use uploaded file because we've just used file as the name of our property. So I'll just redo those getters and setters. So file now matches up to what's on our uploaded file type. You could change that by setting the property path or whatever, but there's no real point when we control everything anyway. Okay, so now that we've got this uploaded file type, we can use this. We can say our type here is instead going to be our app bundle form type uploaded file type. And let's see where we get in our implementation when we do that. So I'm just going to add a wallpaper. You can see some slight strangeness going on here, but let's give this a shot all the same. So we'll choose a file, one from our desktop, we'll say space1, any slug will do. Width and height doesn't really matter. I'll save that off. And this is actually pretty good. Even though we're seeing that the database insert failed, that's because our file name cannot be null. And if we look, we were actually setting the file name dynamically inside our other implementation. So even though we've done quite a lot of work without really looking at any UX, so we've not really been mucking around in here at all and testing stuff by hand or anything, it is roughly all still working the same way. There are bits and pieces that we need to do to bring this all together, such as these pieces here, but generally things feel like they're going in the right direction.